Real life trading nation.
Bam! Traders, friends and family, team, and fans from around the entire world. Welcome to the Real Life Trading Podcast. And this podcast, we interview traders from all over the world, talk about what they do, how they do it, why they do it, where they do it from, and just learn about their life. This is a very special interview because we are talking with a true American hero, Jeremy Locke. This man is a Green Beret, and we're going to be discussing his career. We're going to be discussing his stock investing, and we're going to talk about how we as a company can start helping more of our servicemen and women from all over the world. So my man, Jeremy, tell us a little bit about you, man. Like, where are you from and how'd you get involved in the military?
All right, brother. Well, Jeremy, I appreciate you having me on the podcast. It should be pretty easy for y'all to remember my name, but yeah, I'm super pumped to be here. So I'm originally from the West Coast. I was born in Portland, Oregon. And you know what I decided to do after high school? I decided to join the military. So yeah, so I grew up there. 18th birthday, just a few months after that, I shipped out for the Army. And I spent my first 10 years kind of all over the place in Germany, Virginia, Georgia, Texas, all over the place. And I finally got involved and made the decision. I was like, I'm either going to get out or I'm going to step up. So I decided to try out for Special Forces, and I did that about 10 years ago, and I became a Green Beret. I've been stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky for the better part of 10 years now, and I'm just about to hit my 20-year mark. So last 10 years as a Green Beret, I'm 7 deployments in, 5 of those combat. I've been all over the world, done so many amazing, wonderful things, met so many amazing, wonderful people. And now I'm kind of in that transition period as I'm getting ready to get out. And I'm super pumped for it.
Yeah, which is cool, man. The transition period for a lot of people, I think, is and can be scary. We're going to talk about what's on your shirt in just a little bit and the impact that you make there. So with your stock investing, I know it's been a little bit recent for you, but why the hesitation? And then when you started, why did you start?
Yeah, brother, I'm glad you asked that. So I'll kind of give you a little bit of background about the military, right? So the military is awesome. It provides opportunities for those who need it. It protects our country. It gives jobs and special skills to people that go into it, gives them opportunities to go to college, but it's a big freaking machine. This thing is a machine, and it's designed to win foreign wars, right? So inherent in that is it puts you in this bubble. And that's the way I kind of always describe it. So everything, the way my mind works as far as like money, before I got some of your mentorship and went through some of your programs, is I was so reliant on the military. I was relying on the extra $150 a month I get because I can speak Arabic well, the extra $300 I get for something that's called imminent danger pay or hostile fire pay. They actually pay us more money to get shot at when we go overseas. And when I really, write it down and look at it, man, they don't pay us enough. But this is kind of like the short thinking that we get involved in within the military. So it's always buy a house, save your money, go to college, do some college courses, and then get set up at a job when you get out. And that's pretty much it. Put things into savings, do that, and you'll be good. The Army will provide for you, your healthcare will be taken care of, but it doesn't, and they probably want to keep you is why they don't do this, but it doesn't really have the programs and the things involved to really let you expand and search of areas outside of the military, money-making opportunities, entrepreneurships, all these different things. Really, they're there, but they aren't broadcasted. It's such a tight community that you're not very aware of it. So for me, my last deployment, I left for my 3rd trip in Syria in January of 2020. I went over there for 6 months, and about a month in or so, I got connected with this group called G-Force, which is absolutely wonderful entrepreneur group. And Jeremy Awesome Newsom is one of the amazing coaches on it. And he started talking about stocks, and there's always like 1 or 2 guys that, on my team that are kind of delving in it, and they do it a little bit, but I didn't really know what it is. And for anybody especially me, and I'm specialized in like shooting a gun. I'm specialized in going and finding bad guys. I'm specialized in jumping out of airplanes. I'm not specialized in like this little bit of money that I make, like putting in. To me, it seems like gambling because I don't know it well enough, and I don't really have the tools or know where to find the tools and resources to expand my knowledge to be comfortable with making those sort of investments. So I think it was in February we started listening to you and taking some of your advice, and I started putting a little bit of money in there, and then I just built, I think, what is that you always say, man, like just get in, right? Buy that one share. Yeah, we want to go to your house, walk around, find the one thing you use all the time, the thing you believe in, and just buy a share of it and just get comfortable, get your feet wet. And I appreciate that because that's what I did. So I did that, and after about a month or so, I was like, man, like this little bit of money I put in has grown. And if you really do the math on it, like this thing's grown by 13, 20%. Like what kind of return is that? That's crazy. Like what does my savings account give me? What does any of these other things give me? Like nothing like that, right? So what I ended up doing was I decided to take this thing we get, it's called per diem. And this is like one of the most amazing things that you get being special forces is we're out in the middle of nowhere. So we actually get extra money throughout for a daily allowance. So when we get back, a lot of guys get back and they buy a bunch of guns or they go on a big vacation or anything like that. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this money and I'm going to put it into my stock account, and I'm going to listen to Jeremy Newsom, and I'm going to use the techniques and procedures that he's been teaching, and I'm going to try to make this money grow. I'm going to try to, for the first time in my life, dude, it was like make my money work for me, not me working for my money. And that was like, I appreciate that lesson because that was absolutely amazing. And the stuff is like, it's cool. And you know, you sit there and you're obviously looking for the green days. But so I get in there and I take this money, and I don't know if you want me to give this away right now. All right. So I take this money and we'll talk about, you know, it's not a whole much, but for me, it's like, this is a huge amount of money. I put probably about around $20,000 in, and that was in February. And my current account, so we're looking at what, this is less than a year. I'm up over about $90,000 from $20,000. Yeah, man. So yeah, so I got back, right? I was renting. I bought a house using that money. I just did a whole bunch of renovations to it, and I'm about to turn that into a cash flowing asset. And now I'll have that passive income. And this is something that just blows your mind when you're in the military. It's something that absolutely blows your mind. So
that is so cool, man. Yeah. That is so cool. Truly tremendous. And one of the strategies you're implementing too is the covered call strategy. Do you want to talk and just give your explanation to all the military men and women watching this? Can you explain to them what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So from my understanding, and you obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but covered call is essentially you're renting out your stock. So what I like to do is, first of all, you have to own them, and you have to own 100 shares of whatever stock it is. And I've been very successful in trading Tesla because Tesla is like the anti-stock of all time. Like this thing, it doesn't matter. Like you go and you look at its quarterlies. I think it's over $1 million for them to make their profit value. Be like, have to sell $1 million per vehicle or something for it to justify what their current price is. But when you have something that's volatile, but something you believe in and you want to keep long-term, then you can do these things called covered calls, which is absolutely amazing. To me, it's like, it's free money. So we're talking about those passive income streams, right? So I plan on having a house and getting Airbnb income, which is passive income. So what I do is I do this thing called a covered call. So I look at a future date, and I'm basically have worked this in. It's been so good for me that I've been able to work it in my monthly budget. So I do them for about 2 weeks out, and I'll take a look at Tesla. Let's say Tesla's trading at $700 currently. I'll take a look a couple weeks out, and I'll go something real high, and I'm like, there's no way in 2 weeks it's gonna make it to $810, which, I mean, sometimes it doesn't, but I mean, it's astronomically how high you go. You're looking at, I'm doing calls that are 8 or 10% above what its current valuation is for 2 weeks. Like that's insane with that much market cap. Like it's insane. So I pick that, and someone will pay me for the option to buy that at that higher price. Now, the cool thing about it is when they pay me immediately. So I'm putting these calls in, and people are paying me anywhere from, I think the largest I made on one of these was $2,400 in premium and it was like an 8-day call. So I'm looking, usually it's between about $500 and $900 that I get every 2 weeks. So now I'm looking at between $1,000 and $1,800 of extra income a month. And all that happens is when Tesla goes up, and as long as it doesn't reach that call amount, I keep that premium and I keep my shares. And when Tesla goes down, that kind of helps. It kind of helps like cushion the blow of the unrealized gains when it goes down. So it gives me that extra premium, which is fine because, again, I believe in Tesla and I don't necessarily want to sell my shares right now anyways. But if it does go up and it hits this astronomical number that I'm completely comfortable with selling it at, and just waiting for a dip and buying back in, then it's good to go. So covered calls have been awesome for me.
That's so cool, man. And you described it perfectly. Yeah, you described it perfectly. So for those who are watching and are listening, this is something that we got to keep in mind where anyone has the access to do this. You said you started off with $20,000 and now it's $90,000, and you still use some money for your house and renovations. I mean, that's miraculous. That's incredible. And yes, it's attributed also to a growth of Tesla, but that's not the only stock that you've traded. So tell some people some other stocks that you also traded profitably and successfully.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of touch on your advice. So I took some of the stocks that I commonly use. So I made a very good amount of money on Apple. And one of the cool things with Apple is they actually pay dividends. So I held them for quite a while. And I want to say I made probably 15 grand or so on Apple. And then I made that dividend money as well. And then I kind of branched off from that, and now I'm really into it, right? So it's exciting for me, and I'm doing my research. And when you go through Jeremy's courses, you can kind of start reading the graphs. You can looking for the double bottoms. You can look for these traditional trends that happen before the market will go up or the market will go down on your specific stock. So what I looked at is Apple. I've been really kind of heavy on EV. And if you look at things that are indicators that kind of help you with that, like even political news with everything leaning towards Joe Biden as being the next president. Has a big green initiative. So you have companies like Switchback Energy, you have NIO, Tesla, Li, a lot of these Chinese EV makers, these different sustainable green energies that get bolstered by the news that a traditionally green energy party would be getting involved. So that it will represent a spike in it. So that's kind of what I did. So those are more of like my shorter term positions. For instance, what I'm working on right now is I have a pretty good stake in NIO, and NIO's been performing really well. And it's about to have a January 9th. They're coming out with another NIO day. And right now everything's trending up pretty good for it. And so probably around the 9th, I think my strategy will be to sell off some of that and kind of realize those gains. And then from there, I just read the news. I find out what is going on, what trends we're having. Is there another treatment for COVID coming out? What needs are there? Are things going to be opening back up, which is really big? So you see made pretty good money on Spirit Airlines, Carnival Cruise, Norwegian, because all those, once they get the positive news of COVID kind of settling down, which it's spiking back up again, but then those trend up, and you just kind of ride those waves of news. And once those are either fading out or there's other news coming, that's kind of when I sell those positions and I wait for some more news to come. But yeah, that's that. And I consider myself pretty conservative too. Like I like the powerhouses. I like the Apples. Tesla's kind of its own anomaly, but the Disneys, those big companies that have traditionally been around for a while that most likely are going to be around for a long time. Oh yeah. So man, that was my first big one. So, and it's not rocket science. It's really about being comfortable with it. So when I got involved in Boeing, I just looked at what they kind of were at for the 2 years prior to the COVID crash. And they were trading, I think it was over somewhere around $330 a share, pretty plus or minus $20 for a good year and a half or something. So that to me, that's real stable. Right. And then of course, when you have, I think, combined news of some issues with some of their planes, as well as COVID hitting and nobody's flying anywhere. So fortunately, I didn't own Boeing before the COVID. So COVID comes down and it drops. And I want to say Boeing was like $60 or something at its lowest, something like that, $60 a share. So that's a huge decrease, with over 300, 400%. So I took a look at that and I'm like, man, I think, it's bound to go back up. And so I bought into that one. Once it bottomed out and it stayed pretty level there at the bottom, I invested, when I talked about that 20,000, I was pretty heavily in Boeing and SPR, which is a kind of an affiliate of Boeing, if I'm correct in that. But they make some aeronautical parts, and so Boeing went up, and they went up big. So I rode that wave as it went up, and then right was on the top, I sold that one. And then I made some pretty good money on Zoom. I know I wish I would have stayed in that longer, but it's simple things, man. Like I'm over in Syria and I'm conducting meetings. I'm talking to Jeremy on Zoom. I'm talking to other people, and I'm like, man, Zoom. Hey, you get your Zoom link. You got Zoom this, Zoom that. And I'm like, well, I mean, nobody's going to school anymore. Everybody's using Zoom. Like, it's got to go up, right? So, and it did. And so I picked Zoom. So it's kind of some of those no-brainer ones, man. Like you just get in them for a while, and when you feel that news is kind of wavering, then just get out of them and just take those profits.
I love it. And the cool part is, I mean, yes, this is a bullish market that we're in right now. And so companies will do this. They will generally trend bullish in bullish markets. There's a term, a rising sea lifts all boats. But in essence, what you're doing is you are making it very simple for other potential investors, people who might be in the military or might have family in the military, because in essence, we have to take the approach where we do invest in things that we understand and things that we know. And with our military men and women, our servicemen and women who protect this country, what's phenomenal is they have, in my opinion, such incredible insights on technology that the general public might not know about. They might know about government contracts with like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Raytheon. You might know of certain industries that are going to be benefiting from transportation of minerals or different products from one country to another. So use your knowledge, use your intelligence. Don't ever think that you're not smart enough to invest, because we're probably the two stupidest people on this island. I mean, Jeremy are like the lowest, like our IQs are barely 60. We're knuckle draggers, man. But what's happening is we also realize the power and the implications that we have when what you mentioned, you start changing your mindset of how can you have your money work for you rather than you working for your money. That's a massive change in mindset.
Yeah, I like where you're talking about some of that, like you don't want to use the term insider knowledge or whatever, but so one of the ones that I noticed too that I made a little bit of money on was Palantir. Right. So when we do our SF operations, this is like a company that I've known about this company for years. So we use their software, and it's kind of like a way of battle tracking and way of mapping out and see where like all of your forces are on the battlefield. And I mean, we have classes on it all the time, and I know the software very well, and they do a bunch of other things as well that a Green Beret may not need. But when I started hearing about them and all the potential that they had and government contracts, I'm like, well, I mean, they already got government contracts. Like, I use them. And so I put some money in there and made a pretty good amount on Palantir as well, which was awesome. And then going back to the Peloton, like the bike, like all that stuff that especially, I guess maybe it's a millennial thing. And I'm nothing against millennials, because I'm an OG millennial, 1983. So I'm like one of the first, right? So I'm the godfather of millennials. But yeah, back when they're cool, right? But yeah, man, like anything that is like fresh and cool, and people are using it tends to go up. And I'm gonna start branching out next, and my next thing is gonna be getting into some puts, and that's gonna be like that's my next one. So I got to do some more real life trading classes on that one to make sure I get in it armed with the proper knowledge. But I'm excited to get involved in that one too.
Cool, man. I love it. So you're talking about that transition period. You have your 20 years. You're approaching retirement, by the way. Congrats on that, man. Yeah, that's a huge accomplishment. Tell us a little bit about what's on your shirt, Aerial Recovery. What is that, and why do you do it?
Yeah. So Aerial Recovery Group is it's a huge passion of mine. It's right along the lines of what I've been doing in the military for especially the last 10 years, but the last 20 years that I've been in. And what Aero Recovery Group is a disaster management company, right? So we're recovery master planners. And the cool thing about Aero Recovery Group is we use the best practices in the world. We use the knowledge and expertise of ex-special operations forces combined with disaster relief experts, combined with developers, combined with all medical personnel, everybody that has the experience and the expertise. We use that and we apply it to disaster situations. So if you go in, other than maybe some more charring, but if you go into these places I've been in the Middle East or in Africa, and you take a look at a village or a city after it's war torn, and you go and you look at Dorian in Bahamas or Laura in Southwest Louisiana, it's the same. It's just complete devastation. There's loss of life, livelihood. There's no hope. And what I've been doing for the better part of a decade as Green Beret is going and delivering that hope. And De Oppresso Liber, which is our slogan as a Green Beret, which is to free the oppressed. Like that's what we do as Green Berets. And I'll say this one time just because I love you. I was scared. Like I was scared to get out of the military. I didn't know what I was going to do. And before I got into stocks, I didn't know how my retirement pay, like what is this going to translate to? What am I going to do? I don't want to be overseas working for another government agency and spending my entire life in war zones. Like I don't want to do that. I've done that enough. And I know there's a lot of people, men and women, that have also sacrificed like that. And at some point you need to be back. You need to be with your family. You need to be working on you. And so the cool thing about Aero Recovery Group is it still provides me that mission. It provides me to use the skills that I've been honing and developing for the better part of a decade and go out and apply it and serve. And now instead of serving my country, which I've done faithfully, now I'm serving my God, and I'm serving my fellow men and women. And oh, by the way, I bring in servicemen and women also who want to do the same thing. So we're providing that opportunity to come in through Aero Recovery Group. Oh, by the way, I also tell them about Jeremy Newsom and real life trading, and tell them that these other opportunities, depending on what stage they're at, if they're still in, I want them, and that's why I appreciate this opportunity to be on here, is I want them to understand that there are other ways than buying like the new sweet AR. When you get back with, you can grow that AR into 10 ARs, and you can use that money to go over to Honduras and help serve over there and help people out over there. There's just so much opportunity. And so Aero Recovery Group is just a great way to repurpose military and to go out and continue that mission and help people out.
Man, that's powerful. That's powerful. One of my big takeaways from that was you mentioning that fear, and you're not alone in that, man. There's no way. I think that there's people that have different fears, but let's say you have a corporate job and you're like, well, if I leave this corporate job, I have all this pay, and like, what do I do now? But it's even bigger when your whole life is in the military, because like you have a job, you have all kinds of different jobs, but it's not like you can just go out as a Green Beret and just go like, oh, I just can keep doing this forever once you retire. Like if you retire as a salesman, we'll just go sell something else somewhere else, right? It's a lot harder to do that, but what you're doing is you're using your skills, your talents, your drive, and your passion for really helping other people, and you're making it larger, which is incredible. That's phenomenal, man. That's phenomenal. Let's get back to some of the other people you mentioned, talking about teaching the other military personnel how the stocks work and how to get involved. How do you think you and I and Johnny Guarco and the team at Real Life Trading Military, how do you think we can help these servicemen and women? What can we do to really impact their lives?
Yeah, absolutely. So a term that I use a lot in the Special Forces world is force multiplier. You, as a 12-man ODA, which is an operational detachment alpha and 18, we go in as 12 people and we affect 500 to 1,000. And so you don't need you just need people that are good and a little amount of them to affect a lot. And so that's kind of the way I envision real life trading, the military, is it goes in and it goes in there and it just multiplies and spreads, especially when it gets involved into a community like that and it has the success behind it. It has the track record. It has the trust. It has the endorsement by someone, and I'm telling you 100% I endorse this thing, it's absolutely awesome and wonderful, is that endorsement, and then you get that buy-in with that community. So when I was overseas and I started working with y'all, I was new to me, but as I was learning, I was taking notes and I wanted to spread it. And so I'm in the middle of this city in Syria with just 11 other people, and we're sitting there doing what we're doing out there. And one of the most exciting times we would have is like the night after I got off a call with you, and I would talk to my boys and I'd be like, hey, all right, so this is just in, this is the hot stock, like, and everybody's over there, and you'd see them, like, we'd be getting back from missions and guys are getting their weapons cleaned, and once we get our priorities work, as we call it, done, they're opening up, getting online and checking and seeing where their portfolio's at. So it was cool, man. Like we were talking so much stocks out there, and that's what he needs to do. And that's what I hope that if you are in the military and you hear and see this podcast, or if you know someone who is in the military, just spread it to them. Just pay it forward. This is like free. This is free knowledge, and just pass it forward to them so they can in turn spread it and just get that knowledge out there. And I'm telling you, it helped me out. It helped, I would say, just for me, the stuff I've learned through you and passing that on, I've probably directly helped 30 to 50 service members, and they've indirectly helped, another 100. So that's the way I want it to grow, and I want it to keep going that way. And I want this thing to be a force for good, man. And that's what it already is.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Switching gears just for a quick moment. I have worked with Marines. I've worked with Navy SEALs. Why do I almost never hear about the Green Berets? Like, why is that form, that branch, so hidden and so quiet?
Okay, so I told you our slogan, which is De Oppresso Libere, which is to free the oppressed. We also have another term that we use and we hold dear to us, which is the quiet professionals. So the way that we thrive and stay alive, as I like to say, is when we go overseas, we work and in bed with local populations. So it is dangerous for us to be broadcasting where we are, who we are, where we're excellent targets. And so we don't want the people to necessarily know who we are. When I go overseas, I used to be called Ahmar Kabir, which is big red in Arabic. Like, that was my nickname, and everybody around there knew me as that. And because when I go out and I get myself a Newsom beard here, mine turns out being real red, so everybody called me that overseas, and that's kind of how I did that. But what separates us, honestly, is we also say another thing too, and I'll probably get some SEALs to send me some messages or use some messages after this. But we say during the Navy SEAL training, I think they have like a whole month or two on like book writing classes, so they can write their books. But yeah. No, we generally say we stay pretty quiet, man, and like real humble. That might change if you see a Green Beret at a bar or something, but they might start talking a little bit more. But for the most part, we like to blend in, and we like to not let everybody know in the room that we can take out anybody in the room.
Yeah. And I will say this, I'll swallow my pride, let you guys know. So I wrestled this guy. We did some jiu-jitsu, and I'm fairly okay at jiu-jitsu.
Oh, he's good. He's good. He's good.
He's better though. He's a lot better. A lot better. Oh man, I got absolutely wrecked. We were wrestling on the beach, and I just looked like a mummy. I had sand all over me, red marks everywhere. That was a great day, man. That was a perfect Sunday. I love it, dude. Well, Jeremy Locke, I meant what I said earlier, man. You are an American hero, and people are going to watch this from all over the world, and they're going to know how powerful you are and what you're doing. And they're going to know that your heart's in the right place. Like, you really do want to serve, you want to help, you want to assist, you're going to enrich lives. And this is going to be the start of so much greatness, because I have always known, like, all of my uncle, my dad, all my uncles, my dad, a lot of my brothers were in the armed forces. And so having not only the US Armed Forces, but Australia, all the other countries. I mean, there's so many other countries that, I mean, every country has armed forces. Of course they do. I'm just being stupid, apparently. They all have.
I didn't know that either. That's why we're the two stupidest.
On a private island.
Yeah. It'd make my job a lot easier if they didn't have.
True. But everyone, this is something that we can impact. This is a niche. This is a direct community and group of human beings that we can teach, and they can still absolutely be very involved in the military while they're still doing this. I mean, you mentioned pulling up, getting all of your priorities completed, and then going and checking everything. So it's not a priority, but it's something that you can do with very limited time, with very limited resources. As long as you have internet, you can do it anywhere in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. It's instead of going out there, and a lot of guys, especially back in the day, we don't always have good internet where we're at, but we have good enough internet to check our apps. So, you'll come out with your hard drive with all the seasons of whatever your favorite show is and whatever movie like you're going to watch 100 times over and over and know every quote from. But if you can just take I love The Office. So I'll plug The Office in here, right? So I think it's 22 minutes. I know you guys use that for your format for Broke to Woke. So that's the perfect amount of time. But if you take that 22 minutes to find out what you like, do a little bit of research about it, and then put your orders in, that's it. And the cool thing about it too is, like, if I'm comfortable buying this stock at $18 and it's sitting around 21, 22, I'll just put an order in and I'll just extend the fill date on it. Yeah. And now I just go off and I do whatever I need to, and I can check my app in 2 weeks, and I'm like, oh great, it filled. Now I have a stake in this company that I believe in. It's cool. Like, you're the owner of, like, Apple's finally given me, let's be honest, I'm probably even with Apple, even though I made probably like 15 grand on their stocks. That's probably just paying for the Apple products that I bought throughout my life. But at least you're back to even. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, it's cool, man. It's really cool. It's a good opportunity.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, team, friends and family, fans from around the world, make sure to check out his Instagram at Locked and Loaded. It's probably one of the best Instagram handles I've ever seen.
Very selective.
Very
selective with my followers.
That's right. Make sure to reach out to him if you have any questions. If you are in the military, especially if you're a Green Beret, you don't know him, that's probably impossible. But if you're in any other branch of the military, U.S. Armed Forces or anywhere else, feel free to reach out and connect with him. And let's continue to help our servicemen and women all over the world understand how the stock market works and how to properly, safely, consistently profit from its movements and directions, both up, down, and sideways. My friends, thank you so much for listening. You rock. And until next time, love life, live life, and trade it. I'll see you later. Bye.